Hello, welcome. My name is SlugMTG, and today we're going to be starting a new series, a series of podcasts that I would like to do called No Salt Allowed. And on this first episode, we are going to be discussing online versus paper Pauper. And to help me discuss these points, I have brought on a special guest, SinCityMtG. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, so do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself? What you
Hello,
do?
I run the channel. My name is Josh. I run the channel SinCityMtG. Um, I got started in Pauper maybe 4 years ago. My friend Noah started a Pauper group at our local Magic the Gathering shop, Action Comics in Las Vegas. I don't really actually play in paper as much anymore, but it was cool. I made like a mono blue Delver deck that had like Ona's Grace and had a lot of like some bad cards because I didn't net deck it. I didn't realize all the cool cards that you could have in Pauper. Um, and then a few years later, in 2018, so what, 2 years now, 2.5 years, because it was at the beginning of 2018. I stopped working two jobs. So then I started using, I went from like working 70 hours a week to like 25 to 30 hours a week. So I needed something to fill all the time with. So I started a YouTube channel and I've uploaded over 500 videos at this point.
Yeah, so that's quite a few videos you got there.
Yeah, a lot of content. And if you could really just scratch out the first like 200 because they're really bad, and then I don't know, it gets better every year.
Yeah, no, they're definitely like don't go watch my first few videos because I think my first video was like custom commanders I made, as if anyone would want to see that.
Yeah. My first couple of videos were like burn, but I had like no mic. I had a very crappy recording. I had no editing. I had no thumbnail. I was just all like, yeah, this is great. And then like now I look at it and I'm horrified. And let's be honest, as my content has gotten better, and it's even gotten better recently because I'm using like an auto editor because I'm, let's be honest, too lazy to edit all my videos because they're all really long, and who wants to put in 4 hours of editing every day if you're trying to post every day? So I was just all like, okay. But now that I found the auto editor, I've gotten good reviews, so I think the videos are better.
Yeah, I've definitely enjoyed. I remember just this past one, I actually forgot that you were using the auto editor, and I saw that it was only like 20 minutes. I was like, dang, he didn't get many matches in. And then I watched it. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's still the same amount of matches.
Yeah. So nowadays I think I try to play 2 to 3, sometimes 4 matches per video. That used to be a video anywhere from, if it's like 2 matches, it would be like 35 to 45 minutes. And if it was up to like 4 matches, it would be like an hour and 20 minutes. But now those get edited, pretty much cut in half with like the dead silence getting taken out. So it's pretty nice, actually.
Yeah, I find, because I also edit out the dead silence, although I do it manually because I want to make myself suffer. So I do find that I do cut out like a little over half of the video.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it definitely helps. It's getting used to constant narrating. That's the one thing, like, because unless you're Caleb Gannon, who's a very good YouTuber, by the way,
Oh yeah.
and are like really smart with computers, he wrote his own program to edit both based on like visual cues and audio cues. Your best chance is to just buy one that does the just audio cues.
I mean, all you need is like what does he have, like a doctorate in?
He has a PhD in computer science, if I believe.
Yeah, that's too much school for me.
Yeah. I don't think you need that much, but I'm just saying he's definitely putting his degree to good use at this point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just got back into school, and I have to say, in these math classes, I miss numbers. It's all letters now.
Yeah.
I don't. Ugh. All right. So, moving on though to the main topic, online versus paper Pauper, and I want to put the online first because saying paper Pauper is fun.
Yeah.
So, what do we mean when online versus paper Pauper, and what is there even a difference between the two, or what would some of the differences be?
So the main difference is there's two main differences. The first one is the amount of clicks in infinite combos make certain decks online, or even not even infinite combos, but like value combos that require a lot of interactions,
Mm-hmm.
make certain decks online either dread to play or unplayable to play online.
Mm-hmm.
As well as the way that the timer works out online, if you take up most of the time, you end up losing. But if you're playing in paper and you take up most of the time, you guys only get one match, and as long as you win the first match, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, you have experience with paper Pauper in actual tournaments, right?
Yeah, I've played in the last two GPs that came to Vegas. I played in both the Pauper events there, as well as I played in additional like side events for Pauper. But the main difference I would say is when you're playing in paper, there's a lot more people who are just playing for fun. And you'll see a lot of cool like brews more than you would think in the main events. Like I think like I played against a few like infect decks. I played against like a few of the blue black mystical teachings decks, which you don't see much
Oh
online
yeah.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like more of those style decks. You'll end up seeing a lot of mono blue or blue red. Less blue red than you see online though, because Snowlands and paper at the time were expensive. They're less expensive now since they've gotten a reprint.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll also see decks like Torture Existence will fare a lot better because Torture Existence is a deck that is very click intensive, and I should know I've played a lot of it on my YouTube channel. As well as there's certain things you can do with Torture Existence that you could just say, I'm going to do this, but you won't do online, because in Torture Existence you have a ability, if you have a Golgari Grayscale in your hand, and a Golgari Brown Scale, I think it is. Sorry,
Yeah.
I said Grayscale.
Brown scale, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's Golgari Brown Scale in the graveyard. Basically, when that card comes out of the graveyard into your back into your hand because it is dredge, you gain 2 life. But the Torture Existence trigger also allows you to gain 2 life off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say at the end of your turn in paper, be like, I'm gonna tap all my black mana, cycle these a bunch of times, and gain that much life. Yeah, but you doing that online will take 2 or 3 minutes off your timer, which you really don't have. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I mean, especially if you have like one in your hand, one in your graveyard. For every black mana that you tap, you just gain 2 life.
Yeah,
and you could literally just say, okay, I have 4 black mana, tap, I gain
8 life.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, if you're gaining 8 life at the end of each turn, it makes it really hard for Delver to kill you. It makes it really hard for Stompy to kill you. But you can't really do that effectively online because you're going to run out of time, right?
Yeah.
And then the other deck that's in Torture Existence, if you play online or in paper, as hard as it is to admit, is not super competitive. It's really fun. It's a nice toolbox deck, and it is so much fun. And when you win with it, it's so gratifying. But if we were to be honest, it's not super competitive because there's so many ways to attack it. Like, you can attack the enchantment, you can attack their graveyard, you can attack their hand, like, you can counter it. It's just like so many ways to stop it. Like, it doesn't really work out the way you want it to all the time. It is so fun though. But a deck that does have a lot of clicking in, that doesn't see as much play, or I don't think I see as much play as it would in paper, is the blue-white familiars or Bennett familiars deck.
Oh yeah, that
one's actually competitive. Is super click intensive, but can actually win. Like, I think that when they did the Pauper, where actually like Channel Fireball,
the actual tournament
back, yeah, a few years back when Channel Fireball actually was showing it on their show, and Pauper was playing, you saw a blue-white familiars deck beat blue-black Delver deck at the time, where blue-black Delver deck was like the boogeyman at that time because you had foil and gush and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think the familiars deck actually came second overall.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like it's a very good deck. It's
Mm-hmm.
super contensive. I'm trying to think of other decks that would be like Tron's easier to play a little bit in paper because it's also less click intensive, especially if you're doing Flicker Tron. Um, One deck you'll see less of though is Burn because Burn actually is way more expensive than most Pauper decks.
Huh.
Because the half the Burn cards go into the Legacy and the Modern versions.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's weird because online you see that Burn is actually one of the less expensive decks, but I guess once you move into paper, it
Like
gets.
lightning bolts are expensive, lava spikes are I think
Yeah.
expensive, fire bolts are expensive. Like it's not cheap.
Yeah, that's
So that's
that's
another
kind of
one.
weird, especially since Burn is considered in pretty much every other format to be the budget deck that people start out with.
Well, though, if you do want to make Pauper burn, you'll have half the cards or majority of the cards to build burn for modern or legacy.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, you can definitely take that and push it
That
into
one
other
in
formats.
Delver transitions the best.
Which one?
Delver.
Delver. Okay. Yeah, I don't really pay attention to much Legacy, so I
Yeah.
don't really know those lists that well. Uh,
Yeah.
so I pretty much just stick with Pauper and Commander as the two formats I play. But yeah, I pretty much just stick to online. I have a Pauper battle box that I try to force my friends to play with me sometimes. And about once a year, they cave on my birthday and will play Pauper with me, and they'll suffer, but it's great.
Pauper
And
is not suffer. It's a good time.
no,
Um,
they're just they started with Commander, so they
I
tend to
mean, yeah,
see.
if you're used to Commander, then
Mm-hmm.
playing any sort of 60 card deck is atrocious.
Yeah, I remember is I actually just played with one of my friends recently, and they like set their life total to 40 at the start. I was like, no, hold on, no,
Yeah.
it's not Commander. And then they I think it just has a much smaller feel because spells are so they're a lot less expensive to cast, and then the decks are just so much more streamlined.
Yeah, there's also like less randomness. There's less likely for combos, that kind of stuff. It's more streamlined, like you said, and it's more like competitive. And you guys are just trying to finish as quickly as possible, rather than just hang out and play the politics game.
Yeah, so one thing I was pretty curious at is so in the before times when we did have GPs and actual person gatherings, how would a Pauper side event work? Like, you just show up,
So
sign
if you
up.
just
How
go
did it
to the
work?
GP, they would have set popper events, usually two a day, right? So
Okay.
there usually be one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And then if it was like, and usually on Saturday there would be like three because there would be like one morning, one afternoon, and one pretty late.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sunday would be the main popper event, which would be usually $50 to enter, and you'd get about 200 people or so to enter that one.
Oh
And
wow.
that's the one with like the big prizes.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so usually I would go play Friday, Saturday. I would play like the side events. I think the first year that I went with a Delver list that was heavy on the big creatures on the back end, like Spire Golems, and then I had a few Stormbound Geist in the sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't play Ninja. And the reason why I played that, and this is like 3 years ago, is because Delver was king at that time. And with between being bigger than everyone else and not focusing on Ninja, I could beat other Delver decks like 70 to 80% of the time.
Okay.
That weekend, I went 8-1 against other Delver decks
Dude, nice.
with an overall record of like, I think I ended up winning 12-2-1, right? But my one loss, which is annoying, uh my one loss in the main event that time was against. It was the same year that Lobert went with um corrupt control, and
Okay.
he ended up going to the top 8. But my main loss in the main event was right before I got 10th place, so I got just outside of the
Oh,
top 8, and I lost to a cycle deck that basically would gain a bunch of life with Nod of the Bone, and
okay.
then he would crypt rat. He would use a Song of the Dam to crypt rat for like 30,
Oh,
and it was the
wow.
first time I'd ever seen that deck. And with it being the first time I had ever seen that deck, I played wrong the first game, and then I sideboard wrong for the second game, and I lost both games. And so I lost to him 2-0. I mean 0-2, but I had won pretty much every match 2-0, and I won my last match 2-0 because I faced him fourth round out of 5 rounds. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I have a really good chance. But then he lost his fifth one. He got seventh. But because of the tiebreakers, I got 10th.
Yeah, I've definitely been kind of in like one of those positions. Do you know what the PCTs are? Pauper Classic Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one recently that I did, I is like 60 people that signed up. I ended up getting 11th, and uh, if one if one or two people had lost that final round, then it was a very real chance that I would have been in the top 8 and moved on to the actual bracket portion.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, 12, 2 and 1, did you say you went?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
year.
very
And
impressive.
then last year, I think it was last year, I went again. I think I went like 10, 4 and 1. I took Delver again, but I had ninjas this time because Tron and Jeskai, it was before Ephemeray got banned.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good record against Jeskai Ephemeray because there was a lot of people that built the deck but had not had a lot of play tests with it. So I knew the matchup well enough that I could outplay them.
Okay.
I ended up doing okay. The final event, I lost two. Like the big event, I lost two in. I lost first to not drawing very well against Mono Red Aggro,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then I lost, and then I was pretty upset already about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lost to a Boros Monarch deck, which is pretty bad for Delver already. And then I felt like I was already distraught and I was upset, and I like also got a mark for I was almost dead already, and I accidentally I just grabbed too many cards, and it looked like I was drawing more than I was supposed to, and I was like, I'm gonna scoop anyways, but I still got a mark for grabbing too many cards from a judge.
Oh.
Yeah, so
How
like that's the other thing you need to check out about paper is like you need to make sure you go through your mechanics correctly if you don't play a lot of paper. Um because that last year I had pretty much stopped playing paper altogether,
mm-hmm.
and I was just playing mostly online. So I knew most matchups really well, but like you get like it's actually super important to go through your mechanics correctly.
And so you said a mark. What does that like? Is it you get a certain
So
amount of marks and you're disqualified?
the first time you get a mark, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then if you get a second one, you get you lose the match immediately. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yeah. So
So
two
they'll mark
marks.
your result paper, and then they'll take it. And then if you get another mark later, and if they remember you had a mark earlier, then I think you don't. It's not that you get disqualified, but you lose the match.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there's not a lot of room for. I mean, I guess that makes sense too. Just, I mean,
But like
crack down.
it's realistically it's stuff like that where I drew too many cards. Like that's a big no no. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
it's a big no no. I messed up. The entire weekend I have been playing ponders, brainstorms, and preordains. So I was used to looking at multiple cards before drawing, and I
Mm-hmm.
was already like pretty upset about the fact that I had lost because there was it was right on the cusp. I think it was either 5 or 6 matches, right?
Yeah.
But I knew that one loss was gonna be because of how many people had signed up one loss was going to immediately kick you out of the top 8.
Yikes.
So it's basically you had to go undefeated against the top 8, and then if you didn't go undefeated, you had to have good tiebreakers. So I lost the 3rd round. It was either the 3rd or 4th round. I went to find the dude that the next round after I had won mine. I was like, all right, maybe I can squeak in again.
Mm-hmm.
I went to talk to the guy who I just lost to, the mono red player.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, I lost. And I'm like, all right, well, that already kills my tiebreakers. Best I can do is just win one more and just get like, you still get good prizes for going like 4-1 or 4-2. I think I went 4-2. Like, you still get prizes, but it's not like I wanted the top 8. Because like the top 8 and like being able to talk about it on my YouTube channel after getting in the top 8 and be like, hey, you guys could go check out this. I made a top 8. I'm actually a good Magic player. Yeah. Because like there's people there like Robert usually goes to though, because I think he's out of Utah, and him and his friend used to run the Common Knowledge podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him at there. I met Entropy 263, which goes by Birdman. He goes to the Las Vegas one every once in a while, and he's actually a really good player. Because I don't know if you guys have ever seen his name on the list on the Pauper challenges, but he'll quite often get top 16, top 8 on those. But he doesn't like playing in paper as much, especially at the Pauper tournaments at GPs, because like I said, is if you lose one game, which is very easy for Tron to just get a matchup that he can't win, because that's mostly what Entropy plays, then you're out. Like with the GPs, the Pauper, not the GPs, the Pauper challenges on Sunday, he can lose a game and still make top 8 pretty easily, because there's 63, 70 signups half the time, and you still have 7 rounds, right? So if you get 7 rounds with that many people, you can go 5-2 and still make the top 8 with good tiebreakers, and 6-1 almost always makes it, you know?
So is it just because there's more people?
Yeah, well, there's, like I said, there was like 250 people, and there was only like 6 rounds.
Okay, yeah. So there's just so much higher odds of just like 8 people just going 6-0.
Yeah, well, there's going to be like 4 or 5 people that go 6-0, and then only 2 or 3 there with 1 loss that are going to make it, and there's going to be like 25 people with 1 loss.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to tiebreakers, you know?
Yeah, that seems so difficult. You have to get so lucky just to go 6-0, even if you are like the world's best player. Yeah,
it's not even as bad as GPs actually are, though. Like, think about it. You have to get into the top 8 of a GP. You're out of because Vegas always maxes out. It's not one of these places that might only get 500 or 1,000 people. We always get the max out on every GP that we've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Because, so you're talking 3,000 people trying to get the top 8 spots. So most of the time it's 13-2 is the bare minimum with good tiebreakers. Most of the time you have to go 13-1-1 to get in the top 8 in Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think I've participated in one modern tournament at a local game store, and I think I went 0-4 and dropped.
Yeah. Well, when I used to play Action, if we're talking about paper stories real quick, I would like to tell this story. This story is very funny for me. So I used to play paper Action all the time. And mostly what I did was draft, because I thought it was just good value, because if you want to you draft, and if you lost, you still get the value of your cards. If you draft and were good, not only do you get the value of your cards, but you get store credit. So it's a very easy way to build up a card collection that way.
Yeah.
So I would do draft quite a bit, and I got pretty decent. But then I went to visit my friend out in Virginia. So we went out there, and he lives in Charlottesville, and it's a super small town. We're talking Fate Reforged, I think was it. It was the one where Ugin was originally printed.
I think around there, maybe.
Yeah. So we're drafting. I went to visit him for a week out in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's a local shop. We draft twice during the week, and it's all cool. I went undefeated both times.
Oh wow!
I was like, "This is great. I'm just gonna collect all this value."
You just
and then they're all
them.
they're like, we're doing a sealed draft on Saturday that's like a $30 entry, and like the prizes are going to be really good. And I'm like, well, I'm already killing it, so I'm going to go on Saturday. So I went on Saturday. I built like this. I think it's Fate Restore. It's the ones with all the dragons. I got the uncommon blue dragon where when it came in the battlefield it would like tap, and I built like a blue green deck with ethereal ambushes, and it was just like a tempo deck, right? I didn't get any bombs, but I was really solid. So like I think it was like only 15 or 16 showed up, so it was only what, like three rounds with, like, they said 4 rounds. I think it was 4 rounds. So I went 3-0, get into the final round. It's me and one dude that's undefeated. And I'm like, hey, do you just want to like take the tie and then we'll just share the prize? And then the prize at the time was like 34 packs for the first person who gets first place, 18 packs for the second place. So it'd be 52 between the two of us. That's 26 each, right?
Yeah.
And he's all like, but he had gotten Ugin. That's the only reason why I know that was the set with Ugin.
Oh, no.
So he had gotten Ugin and he had gotten a few other bombs. So he was feeling he felt really good. So we play the first game, he wins. We play the second game, I win.
Ooh.
So again, it's tied. And I offered to him, I was like, again, hey, we could just take the tie. Each of us will get plenty of prize, all this kind of stuff. He's like, nah, I think I can win it. I'm like, all right, fine. So we play. My deck goes like perfect 1 drop into 2 drop into 3 drop into 4 drop, kill you, right? Just like the perfect curve. And I kill him on turn 4.
Nice.
And I was just all like, all right, cool. So we're good. So I go collect my 34 packs. My friend right next to me is like so excited.
Yeah.
He's so happy. Like as soon as we left the place, he's all like, you always take the tie. I was so happy you beat him. I don't know what this dude was thinking, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right.
Dude,
but as we were leaving, as we were leaving, we heard the other guy. So there was one other guy with 1 loss that his only loss was to me. And he had better tiebreakers, so he got pushed into second place.
What?
Yeah, because they didn't go by like a tournament structure. They were just going by like whoever had the best record. So the guy who had beaten got third place and only got 8 packs.
Oh, what? That's insane.
No, it was beautiful. Okay, you always like, it's okay. For one, we're in a small town in Virginia. This is not like a GP with a $10,000 prize. You just take the tie and go home, man. Just take the tie, you know?
Yeah, honestly, like I would probably just like, okay, take the tie and then just play one out for fun because you're there to play. Yeah.
I would have been cool with that. Like if he's like, oh, I just want to see if I could win, then that's fine. But take the tie, get your easy guaranteed packs. So you missed out on 18 extra packs. He could have gotten 26 and then he got 8 packs. And legit, he was all angry, like he was yelling at the store attendants and all that kind of stuff. And me and my friend are just walking out with these giggles, you know, like we're just like,
oh
like,
man, that is a hard lesson. Oh man,
it just felt so good. It just felt so good. That's my favorite.
That is like that's really funny, but I feel so bad for the guy. Like you think you're at least going to get second.
I offered twice. Yeah,
I mean, I've yet to be, or maybe even be, somewhat remotely successful in a paper tournament. Yeah. So to me, it's like I didn't even know the concept of taking the tie and splitting. I didn't even know that was a thing until like I started looking into Pauper tournaments. Right?
It's a big no-no in big tournaments. Like, don't try to do that as a GP or anything like that. Because if you are trying to like force a tie or try to do a trade or anything, like you can get disqualified. I don't know what the exact rules are, but they definitely don't want to incentivize that because they want people to play it out on the final round. Because they don't want people just like all of a sudden you're 13-1 at the GP, you know. Most of the time people will just take the tie. But they would rather people play it out because it allows more people that might be 13-2 or 13-1, 13-0-1 or whatever a chance to get in that will have not had a chance before, right?
Yeah.
But at your local game store, ties are very common. Just say, we'll take this with the price.
Okay.
Like, many a time I've gone undefeated, got to the last round, and they're like, "You want to tie and split?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, and then common, they're like, "You want to play it out just to see who will have won?" And be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna split, and I'm gonna take," you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean,
But yeah,
I think it's like fair, obviously you just split, and
yeah,
it's much less of a, well, especially after that last story, it's much less of a feel bad if
yeah. Well,
God,
it's
that's
just like,
insane.
I
I
mean, I
can't
very
believe that.
easily could have lost. Like I said, he had Ugin. He had a very good deck. Mine was more had more synergy, you know.
Mm-hmm. Very much
And
more
I just
tempo
like.
based.
And like I said, is the last game I had drawn perfect, and it was literally 1 drop into 2 drop into 3 drop into like 4 drop kill. Like it was the game was over before he knew it. You know?
He was blinded by the Ugin.
Yeah,
I
but
have
like he
Ugin,
was
I'm
just like, I have
undefeated.
Ugin. There was like this 5 cost 5/4 that had to attack each turn, but it was still a 5 cost 5/4 that he had. He
Mm-hmm.
had like some other like he had some like pretty good cards that like pretty good on commons and rares. So I was like, yeah, his power level is definitely better than mine. But like I said, that blue green with the ethereal ambush on fives got me all the way to that point, and I had used I had 3 ethereal ambush, and if you don't know what that card is, it's a blue green 5 cost.
Mm-hmm.
Make it's manifest 2 off the top at
Okay.
instant speed.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically make 2/2/2 at instant speed, and I had used that to win the game too. And now I was like, okay, now that he's seen he can lose, maybe he'll take the tie. He's
Yeah.
like, nah, nah, nah.
I got this. No,
I'm like, no, bro, like let's
you
go.
did not. Mm-hmm.
Let's just share this and be good. So yeah, like that's one thing I enjoy about paper is like, you get stories like that. Like how I started in Magic was all paper. Like I started Magic probably 10 years ago now, like right after I got out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Chris had shown me Magic the Gathering, and since then I've been hooked.
Yeah.
And I started off with we were playing legacy decks, but we were so bad. Like we were so bad at the game.
Oh
Like
yeah.
legit, we thought
Mm-hmm.
we thought what's the one card in legacy, the free cost counter? Force of Will. We
Mm-hmm.
thought Force of Will was a bad card.
I mean, you have to
I have
discard a
to
card or
lose a
exile a
card, and I
card.
have to
Yeah.
lose a life. Are you kidding me? This card's ridiculously bad.
That's so
And I was all
much.
like,
No.
we're legit playing legacy decks, and we're so bad at this. Like, we were just so bad.
Oh no, I think I started out. I bought a Return to Ravnica starter deck on a band trip, so my parents couldn't say no in high school, and my friends taught me how to play. And oh man, it's like I kind of miss those days where you would just sit down at a friend's house at their kitchen table and just play these horrible decks, but you didn't know any better, so you thought it was like super great and fun. But
the
I kind of miss it,
you
but at the same time, I like having decks that work as well.
Oh no, I miss before the arms race started in my friend group. I
Mm-hmm.
miss Magic. That was the most pure Magic at the time. Before there was the whole arms race in our group that just made every deck degenerate. Like, do you know Woolly Thoktar? It's the 5/4 and Naya colors for 3 mana.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That was the strongest card in our like play group. After like we were playing the legacy decks, which was my friend's Chris's brother. Like his brother was the one that had the deck. He eventually took his cards back because you know we're a bunch of 20-year-olds probably not treating. We're talking like $5,000 decks. Like no, like eventually he's all like, no, I need my cards back. Like give me those. So we started
Yeah.
building our
Mm-hmm.
own, and then we thought Woolly Thoktar was like the best. And then all
How'd
of
you
a
beat it?
sudden, I was all like, it's 3 mana for a 5/4. How do you beat that? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And then all of a sudden, my friend Nick, who was the guy in Virginia, by the way, my friend Nick,
Mm-hmm.
he built elves, and none of us could beat like a legit elves deck, like an elves deck that just like was more tournament ready, right?
Yeah.
And that started the arms race. So I built I literally built a deck with like 7 field wipes to beat elves.
Oh man, that's
And
a
then
hard control deck.
yeah, it was 7 field wipes, and then I had the 5-cost Jace, the one that Milton for 0.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That was my win
Wow.
condition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's all I gotta say is just wow.
Yeah, that's it was a blue white field wipe deck, and I like legit. I was just like, I'm just not gonna ever lose to elves.
I
I
will
refuse to.
never lose to elves.
I actually modified that deck when it was like right after Mirrodin. There was a game day back when they had Magic game days when they used to give like playmats and everything.
Okay.
There was a Magic game day, and I went to play it, and I modified the blue. The back when there was like Birthing Pod was in there. There was like Bant Birthing Pod was one of the big decks.
You
and like Stompy. It was like right after like Mirrodin and Innistrad, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went and played, and I played that field wipe deck, and I went and I barely got into the top 8, but then I just strung out perfectly. I had like Terminus, and I had Day of Judgment, and I had between those I had 8, and everyone else in the top 8 was Birthing Pod decks.
Wait, you were the only non-Birthing Pod deck?
Yep, because Birthing Pod was really good at that time.
Wow.
So I went undefeated and won the whole thing.
Dude, good for you.
It was so good. You know, I mean, there's been plenty of times I've played in paper and I just was stunk. But I like talking about the wins like everyone does, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, no, you don't want to talk about the time where you went 0-16. You want to talk about the time where you ended up winning everything.
My first time playing in a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I played a blue-black. I was playing blue-black control because I like control decks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was right after Innistrad, before Avacyn. So, like, at the time, when RuneScar was still legal.
Okay.
So it was like a blue-black control deck that topped off a RuneScar Demon. I had a counterspell in my hand. I was playing against Solar Flare. Do you remember Solar Flare?
Solar Flare? I don't think I know that deck.
So at the time in Standard, it was when like Liliana was available. Liliana of the Veil, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 3-class one.
Yeah.
There was you have the Sun Titan, and then you have a bunch of copy effects. The 2-cost one, the Phantasmal.
Okay. Yeah, that one.
So basically, you would military cards. You would play Sun Titan to target the image, and then you would do that a bunch of times. So you would go from having nothing on the board to 5/6/6s.
Yeah, that'll probably win you the game, unless
this is not the funny part of the story. The funny part of the story is I have the counterspell in my hand. He on turn 3 goes to play Liliana of the Veil. I look at Liliana of the Veil again, first time ever playing like competitive Magic. I was like, oh, he has to discard his own cards too. Oh, that card's okay. I'm gonna let it resolve.
No.
I had the counterspell in my hand. I had the mana open, and I let it, and I proceeded to get my entire hand discarded before he eventually dropped a Sun Titan.
And you're just like, oh, that's how that
and then
works.
I was just like, oh my god. But what's funny is, so I lost that match. My next match I had played against, at the time, there was this 5-cost gain control of target creature. That creature gets infect.
Oh yeah, that one. Mm-hmm. It's like
that was
blue.
one of my win conditions deck. So he was playing, it was like some sort of angel that was like a big angel, and I took control of it and I had like killed him with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my only win of the night. Like, I'm not even saying win match, I'm just saying win game. Like, I was so bad. I was so bad.
We've all been there, going to Friday Night Magic with your just complete jank deck and not doing anything. Not doing well. All right. So we've covered a lot of paper. So let's go into Pauper a little bit and how we talked a little bit before about which decks would probably pop up because I mean Pauper right now is almost exclusively an online format. right?
Correct.
There's just, well, especially now, but in the before times, before the end of the world, like even Pauper would be like 90% online. I think I have like 6 or 7 game stores around me, and I think there was only one of them that would actually do anything with Pauper, and unfortunately it was always while I was working, so I couldn't go to it.
Nice.
But it's just like Pauper is pretty much online. So how do you think if you were, say if it was flipped, it's an alternate reality and Pauper is 90% in paper, what would be some of the first changes that you would expect to see if that were to happen?
I think overall Tron is better.
You think so?
Yeah. The reason why is Tron, it gets less played online because it is super click intensive.
Mm-hmm.
As well as like it's not as fun to play online. When you play Tron in paper, it feels better when you're actually tapping all the mana and playing a big spell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think Tron is better. I think Familiars is better. I think there's a few scrub decks right now that will see a little bit more play because it's easier to play. Like Blue Black Mystic Tool Teachings is a little bit easier to play in paper.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, as long as you win the first match, it doesn't matter if you go into a second match. First round, it doesn't matter if you go into the second one. And then like Torture Existence, that deck sees a little bit more play. I still think Delver's going to be played a lot. I think Burns probably played a little less because it's not, like I said, it's an expensive deck in paper compared to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Though the players that are not super into Pauper, those players will most likely play Burn in Pauper because they will have had already most of the cards.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I think Stompy is probably played less than it's already played online because I just like every time that I've played in paper and Pauper, I just don't see that many Stompy decks. One deck you'll see a lot of though because people enjoy building it, even though I think it's worse to play in paper than it is to play online. I think it's just easier to play online is Elves. Because with all the triggers, like you get really massive board states, and it's much easier to keep control of it online than it is in paper.
Yeah, because all the triggers just pop up.
Yeah. So you got to keep an eye on all your triggers. You got to make sure all that stuff happens correctly. And then also you have these huge, massive board states that is much easier to manage online than it is in paper. Other than that, like, I don't know. I saw some, it's just interesting because the people who play in paper at tournaments, like especially the big ones, most of those people don't play Pauper like a lot. Like, the people who play Pauper on the Pauper challenges, we get at max 70, 75 people. And remember, at the GPs, you get 250, 270.
Yeah, so they're just kind of there.
Yeah, currently the people who play Pauper at GPs, it's not that they're good players because most of them are good players. They're just not familiar with the format. So if you're a person that plays a lot of Pauper and have, one of the rock, paper, scissors decks, which is either like Boros Monarch, Tron, or actually Boros Rally would probably be the better Boros deck right now, especially since you just won the GP 2 days ago. I should put respect on that card, that deck. Maybe. So Boros Rally, Tron, or like one of the Delver decks, either blue black, blue mono blue, or blue red.
Whichever one is stronger at the moment.
You're gonna probably win 70 to 75% of your matches because you're used to the type of decks that are gonna be coming up.
Yeah, you have the game plan. You already know what the opponent is going to do, and they don't know the ins and outs of the matchup.
Yeah,
that might not be obvious on like the first
Stompy
try.
is also a good choice. Mono Red Aggro has seemed to do really well on paper, especially like I like the versions that are like more goblin heavy with goblin grenades now. I see a lot more Mono Red Aggro. You see a little bit of Affinity, but I think it's about the same that you see online. But Affinity is there. I played a few of it, but generally playing mono blue Delver, I haven't had much issue with it.
Yeah, I
Um,
imagine that's not like a horrible matchup.
it's it's a one that you have to know what you're doing though. Like it's very easy for it to get away from you, and especially if they're playing the teamer version with the green guy that's a 4/4, then it can definitely get away with you way too early.
Yeah, I guess if they just like completely swarm out,
Yeah.
they just get the perfect
So
curve.
a bunch of 4/4s and just start hitting you, trying not to combo because you have to constantly keep up mana so that they don't combo you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're trying to deal with a bunch of 4/4s at the same time. Like you could definitely lose pretty
Mm-hmm.
easily. You gotta just hope to get through the initial onslaught and then basically keep up counterspell from that point on.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting like matchup, but I think the 4 times I've played Affinity and Paper, I've won every time. But again, maybe these Affinity players aren't Affinity players who play,
yeah.
Pauper all the time.
I mean, maybe they just saw the professor's video on Affinity that just came out, and they're like, "Oh, cool! I want to try that."
Did he just make one?
No, not now, but he made one like a few years ago. And I think when the Channel Fireball Pauper tournament was going, the professor said he was going to be there playing his Affinity list. So I don't know, but it's kind of weird. It's weird that you said that Tron would be better, because I would think that maybe it would be more of the opposite, because currently some of Tron's worst matchups is like wall combo and some of these combo based decks. But I don't know, because now that you mention it, where there would probably be some more combo based decks and then less of the complete aggro like mono green and elves, then I guess Tron would then adjust, maybe not bring in as many fogs and bring in like a few more stack interactions with counter spells and kill spells.
Well, walls, like I actually wanted to talk about this because I was looking at the last couple Pauper challenges, and as long as there's a few walls players, like at least good ones, Tron doesn't do that well. It seems like Tron, if I would understand the matchup correctly, I could get this wrong, guys. Tron can't beat walls, it just goes too fast, and they're both playing solitaire, but walls is faster, right?
Yeah, it's very, as far as I understand the matchup, it's that Tron focuses a lot on fog effects, stopping combat, and then flickering things back from the graveyard, and walls is like, I don't care about combat, and oh no, you killed my dude, well, I've got Reaping the Graves, I don't care, and then you just get everything like right back, and you can just go off anyway.
Yeah, because I was really scared. I was just looking at the Pauper challenge just last week, 2 days ago, and there was 5 Tron players in the top 8. But then I started looking, and the top ranked Walls player was 22. So either the Walls players all lost really early, or there just wasn't that many.
Yeah,
but if
maybe
you go a week before, like there was only one. Like if you go the last 2 weeks before that, there was only like one Tron player in each top 8, because there was also a Walls player in each top 8. And it's not that Tron can't be Walls. I'm sure they can, but it's just one of those matchups that is going to knock you out of the top 8.
I think I've seen someone before describe the matchup as an 80-20, where Walls will win 80% of the time and Tron will win 20%.
That sounds about right to me. Like I said, they're just playing like Tron doesn't. How Tron is currently built,
so
does not have a lot of interaction. Tron can build itself to have more interaction, but if it does, it makes its Delver matchups and its Stompy matchup and everything else like worse.
So I guess in Paper, where maybe there wouldn't be as much Stompy, then maybe they could gear towards, or maybe there would.
I think the part of the reason this Tron gets better is there's going to be, I think, overall more players that will play Tron. And because like Tron and Jeskai Ephemerate were the two biggest decks, if I remember correctly, last year GP, right? And that's because one, they had a new tool in Ephemerate. Like they had just gotten a new tool in Ephemerate, and everyone wanted to play that card. And then secondly, both those decks were super powerful, right?
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing, is like Tron gets more players than Paper because a lot of people already have Tron built for Modern or Legacy, and then it's also super powerful, so why not?
Yeah, the thing though I've heard is that Tron in Pauper is so different than Tron, at least in Modern. I'm not sure about Legacy, but in Modern it seems like it's either Eldrazi Tron or you're trying to get Karn out as soon as possible. Whereas in Pauper, you're literally just sitting there trying to prevent your opponents from playing the game,
That
and
is
it's
true.
so much different that a lot of players who play Tron in Modern would have no idea what they're doing if they try to play Tron and Pauper.
And that was part of my argument about the fact that if you know the matchups and if you go in, you're probably gonna win like 70% of your games anyways.
Oh
That's
yeah, because I guess the person's like, "Oh, I play Tron in Modern. This should be easy," and then they try. It
yeah,
ends up being nothing like what they imagined. Uh,
yeah,
so I don't know, but if there's more of a spread, I mean, it could very well end up that if Paper Pauper ever picks up, then there could be much more of a spread of decks where you're seeing a lot more combo and some aggro as well. And then Tron just ends up being like, you kind of have to choose which direction you want to try to take Tron. So you might have a better combo matchup, and then you'll have a worse aggro matchup, and vice versa,
yeah,
depending on like local metas and whatnot. So I don't know. Tron is. I really don't know if that would be. It's interesting.
yeah. I'm like I said, is I've seen more Tron in Paper than I have online, and like the tournaments that I've gone. I'm talking like percentage wise,
Mm-hmm.
because realistically, like not outside of Pauper challenges, right? Pauper challenges get a lot of Tron players because Tron players don't grind leagues that much, or there's not a lot of Tron players who grind leagues that much because it takes so long to play, right?
Yeah.
So if let's say that you're really good with Tron and you have like a 65-70% win chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it takes you 5 hours to finish, or like let's say 3.5 to 4 hours because you're almost going to time every single match, right?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of a sudden, it sounds a lot more appealing to have a 55% win chance with Stompy and finish a league in an hour
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
or 2 hours. Like you can get double the amount of leagues and probably get overall more prizes playing one of the more aggressive decks like Stompy. Burn you can definitely get done in an hour because you either win or you lose within the
Yeah.
first 4 turns.
Yeah. That's a very fast deck.
You know, there's a bunch of decks where you can go and grind 3, 4, 5 leagues in the same amount of time it takes you to do one league with Tron.
Mm-hmm.
Now the prizes are so much better with challenges that you actually get to play the challenge, and having that 70% win chance is so really good, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like if you're trying to grind leagues, like even if you want to play control, mono black control finishes the games a lot faster, you know.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, you've got like the Garys, and you still have the Gurmag anglers to help close
Yeah.
out. You're not just trying to grind your opponents out until they scoop of boredom or something.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing. Is like, so if you realistically stay out of Pauper challenges, and the people why most people complain about Tron is because it's so predominant in the Pauper challenges, and even with it being so predominant in the Pauper challenges, like there was one dude that got like 32nd, I think the most recent Pauper challenge that he was playing main deck like land destruction in his Boros Monarch deck.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So
like
I'm assuming like Cleansing Wildfire, the new one.
that's the one he was playing.
Yeah, I that might be main deckable just because it draws a card as well.
Yeah, well, I don't think it worked out for him. He got 30.
Okay, yeah,
I'm just
okay,
saying, it's like
maybe not, but yeah,
they,
someone thought of it.
yeah, you're seeing these style decks like, and that's the whole thing though. Is like it's not even like you can run mono green land destruction anymore because that was really popular because walls and everything else is just going to eat you up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that like, yeah, Tron will do really bad for a few weeks, then all of a sudden it'll be like 6 of the top 8, like it was 5 of the top 8 like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But if you look at like the Pauper challenges, I think for like the last month, that I don't think they've been that many of the top 8 because there's just like the walls decks are keeping them at the bay. They still don't like have the best matchup against the Delver matchups, you know. And then even with all the new tools that Mono Black Control got, like they can focus a little bit more on Tron stuff now that they have better matchups overall across the board, you know?
Yeah. So, and then this past week happened, and boom, they all appeared.
Yeah. Yeah, like this type of week, people were like, "Oh, Tron's been keeping it bad. We're not seeing as much." And then this time, it's like 5 of the top 8
Yeah.
suck. But still, the Boros Rally deck, that one, he had 8 sideboarded cards that were designated towards Tron. He had like 3 land destruction and 5 versions of Pyroblast with Red Blast and
Wow.
you know, and then the Pyroblast also go against Delver, let's be honest. So it's a double thing, but like having all that against like to bring in against Tron, like it helps out a lot, you know? And I mean, there's been the whole argument about Bonder's Ornament, if it's broken or not. I like the card a lot. I can understand why it's broken because it mana fixes and it kind of makes like all the decks the same, you know? It's not nearly as bad as Astrolabe, but it's still pretty good. You know,
my biggest concern about Bonder's Ornament is I'm very much concerned about what the future could hold, because let's say in the future Tron gets banned, just either a new card comes out or people create enough of a ruckus that the Tron lands finally go, and let's say mid-range becomes an actual archetype, because right now mid-range is not an archetype that exists. So if mid-range becomes an archetype, then that probably makes aggro a little bit weaker, and then you start to get like the actual triangle of aggro versus control versus mid-range. And
yeah, but you have mid-range combo, and I don't know, like that's the whole thing though, is even if you build like a really good mid-range deck, that mid-range deck's not going to be able to take advantage of Bonner's Ornament, or might even like to like make it like broken. Because when I play Bonner's Ornament in my black-white Pestilence deck, it doesn't feel that bad because I'm like, I got to tap most of my mana, and most of the time I don't get to use this to draw extra cards, but it gives me an eventuality, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, he's like, these mid-range decks might want to run Bonner's Ornament at least in the sideboard against these control matchups. That way, the control... obviously, they want to just keep mana open anyway. So if they have the extra mana and they get to draw a card anyway, then they have that inevitability where they will run you out of resources eventually. Whereas these mid-range decks that might pop up if Tron ever gets banned. So this is all like a lot of speculation, but they might want to bring in the Bonder's Ornament to try to keep pace with the control decks, which would create kind of maybe like this little mini game of, well, now I got to destroy the other person's Bonder Ornament. That way my Bonder's Ornament actually nets me card advantage. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's something that I've thought about.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Bonner's Ornament is as much the problem. I think Tron is a problem, but I don't think it's ever going to get banned because, I mean, let's be honest, a huge portion of our play base, like a player base and Pauper, mainly plays because if Tron got banned, they probably wouldn't play anymore, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I mean, I do agree that, I mean, and plus Tron has just been in Pauper forever.
Yeah, well, since basically Cloud Post got broken, like the Cloud Post decks got banned, and yeah, like we got rid of those, but again, the part of the reason why Tron or Cloud Post or anything were so like broken at the time was because the Cloud of Fairies was still open, you know? And Cloud of Fairies has been banned since, and it's been really good for us. And I mean, at this point, like Tron's not even running the Stonehome Dignitary anymore, because they're going more towards fog based and more towards like spells.
Yeah, mnemonic wall bouncing things back.
Yeah, so I'm thinking more Tron is moving into the play style of more of a blue-black mystical teachings deck rather than what they were before.
Yeah,
so I don't really feel as bad about them, I mean, they're still annoying to play against because they got all these fogs, they can fetch their fog, all that kind of stuff. But like, it's one of those things that like, as long as walls or like a certain deck like that, like walls is to Pauper what Infect is to Modern, because like when Tron's getting too oppressive and modern, then all of a sudden Infect's the best deck to play, you know?
Yeah, I see it.
So as long as people are playing walls and keeping keeping Tron at bay. Now all of a sudden, if Tron gets a card that makes walls irrelevant, then
Ooh.
burn Tron to the ground.
Yeah,
okay?
no, then that would have to.
Yeah, because like
no.
Tron already like they've gotten pretty close with their like current thing where they're like pretty close to like I think it's rather than before against Delver was like what 70-30 in Delver's favor. Now it's maybe 60-40 in Delver's favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's definitely gotten worse. I would feel like.
I mean, Tron. If there's a good card that comes along, Tron's going to be able to abuse it.
Yeah,
not just use it, just abuse it.
Every time a card gets printed in Pauper that sounds really appealing, then the first deck it gets really used in is like it was like, oh, Cast Down, it's so good. I'm so excited for my mono black control deck, and yet Cast Down has done a lot for mono black control. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the first 2 months after Cast Down came out, Tron was seeing how it fitted in the deck, and there was like 3 or 4 Tron decks that were running like 4 copies of it. It was all like, oh, this was a bad idea, like,
yeah. And I mean if they get another efficient kill spell like that, that could really strengthen their wall matchup as well.
The thing is they're not even using Cast Down as a 4 of anymore. They're only using it as a 1 or 2 of because they're playing it like a toolbox deck, which is cool. I love toolbox decks. They're super appealing. I mean, again, one of my favorite decks in Pauper right now is Torture Existence because it is a toolbox deck. It's just for the fact that it's oppressive with the amount of like the problem is 1 + 1 + 1 = 7 all of a sudden,
Yeah, and it's just like they can afford to run 2 copies because once they get the Tron lands, they can tutor it with Mystical Teachings, cast it, and then just keep bouncing it back to their hand to play it over and over and over again. To the point where it's just like I think I had a Tron matchup where I had like 7 creatures down on the board, and then in one turn I had nothing because they just kept bouncing it back with like they had 2 mnemonic walls down on the field, and just they kept bouncing back Ghostly Flicker and Cast Down, and just got rid of absolutely everything in one turn. And I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like other than getting rid of Tron, there's really no way to like fix Tron at this point. I am happy for the fact that they're no longer using Stormhome Dignitaries because I feel like skipping an entire combat is dumb.
Yeah, and I guess they are transitioning to a toolbox, but I find Moment's Peace easier to play around as well. Like you can hold a Fairy Macabre in your hands.
Yeah,
you have a much better chance of getting rid of the Moment's Peace when they try to fetch it back than just trying to kill a Stonehorn Dignitary where just they can blink. And
or then all of a sudden you're all ready with like Graveyard Hate. Like there's been times where you're ready with Graveyard Hate for when the point that they go to get back their Flicker spell from the Stormhorn Dignitary, and then they just draw 2 Stormhorn Dignitaries in a row, and they just hard cast the new copies.
Yeah,
like it's just. Like I said, it's Tron again. The base of the problem is for the fact that 1 + 1 + 1 = 7.
Yeah.
Do I think it's ever going to get banned? Probably not. Do I think it needs to be banned? As long as there's a few decks that can keep it at bay, I'm okay with it existing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy with it existing.
Yeah. We'll tolerate it for now.
And again, because it is so click intensive, you're not going to see as much of it in the leagues anyways. So if you're the only ones that really should be complaining are the people who want to play the Pauper challenges.
Yeah.
But there could be something to said. The reason why that Pauper challenges online don't get that many entries is for the fact that they don't want to play Tron all day.
Ooh, that's interesting.
But I don't think that's entirely the truth. I think part of it is for the fact that the Pauper challenge entry fee it costs more than most Pauper decks.
How much does it cost to enter?
I think it's 25.
Like ticks?
Yeah, $25, 25 ticks.
Okay, yeah.
Points, whatever. But you see what I'm saying? Like what? Stompy right now is 20 ticks, I think.
Yeah, around there.
Decks, if you're avoiding the hydroblast, pyroblast, all those type of stuff, most of the delver decks you can build for less than. I mean, I used to build. I think my first delver deck that I built, this is years ago online, was 7 ticks.
Mm-hmm.
Like Stompy, you can build for like less than 20. You can build a cheap version of Stompy for 10. You could build a cheap version of Mono White Heroic for 5. You could build like most Delver decks. I mean, most decks in Pauper cost less than 25 ticks.
Yeah, and then obviously what my entire channel is pretty much based around at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like all of a sudden you could get 5 of the deck list off of SinCityMtG, or try to play in a tournament and play against Tron for 7 hours straight. Like,
yeah, and then it's like, yeah, in order to play into the challenges, because it is so expensive, you're basically going to need like all of those, hydroblast, pyroblast, those more expensive pauper cards that you can go through leagues and be fine without getting them, but in challenges you really need those cards that they'll only give you maybe like a 5% win rate increase when you bring them in, but because it's a challenge, it's kind of like the top that you need to take all the advantages that you can get.
Yeah, a few percentages make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you're just going in, like, let's say that you just want to like grind up to that point, what I would recommend if you're like just trying to be on a budget and spend the least amount of money possible is like you can grind Mono White Heroic pretty well in leagues, right? So if you put like $22 in a account, build Mono White Heroic for $5, and then you can enter, or actually $25. So you put $25 into your account,
Mm-hmm.
build Mono White Heroic for less than 5. You have 2 leagues, and then like practice a bunch again in the practice, like the tournament practice.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get as much of it down as possible, and then just start grinding leagues. That gives you 2 full leagues to like get used to it and go ahead with it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because for 25 tickets you could like legit just grind your way up like from that point on, and then build the rest of the decks if you get on a good pace with Mono White Heroic.
Yeah, because we've talked a bit about paper, and then obviously we talked about online there. So one of the things that I think is kind of interesting, it came up a little bit in one of my previous videos, is there an etiquette difference between online and paper play? Where do you play differently, or maybe scoop differently, or between online and paper?
Okay, so you're more likely to scoop in paper because online getting them to timeout is a way to win.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Okay, so
and then if we're talking about etiquette, I always recommend at least, well, maybe not now with the whole everything going on with like the end of the world, but I recommend like shaking your opponent's hand at the end of the game, and just stuff like that. Just be nice, like even if you're upset and losing, like I'm a pretty sore loser, I'm gonna be honest. I hate losing. But I at least try to like keep it in, and I try not to like, I'm not going to yell at the other person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, like, there was this one time, it was probably GP Vegas. I think it was Modern Masters 2. So we're talking 5 years ago, I think.
Okay.
I went and I was just, my whole goal was just to do Modern Master drafts. That's all I did.
Okay.
Right. And I was like 100 tickets. See, this is where I get hurt in the back. Like, remember how I said you should always take the tie?
Oh, no.
So I was like 100 or 200 tickets away from getting a full box of Modern Masters at this time, right?
Okay.
All I had to do, it was Saturday. It was the last Modern Masters, like, tournament. All I had to do was win my last round, and I got enough tickets, and I was able to get a box, and then Sunday I was not going to play because I literally played all day Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and I was just burnt out. So I was like, I just want to win this last one, and I just want to like take my box of Modern Masters and then go home, right? I'm not coming in tomorrow. So I think I went 2-1 at this point, and 3-1 will have got me enough tickets. And it's the last round of it, and I had this pretty good 5-color control deck because Modern Masters usually you could build a 5-color control deck.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, we're just gonna play it. And I play against this guy, and he's like, hey, do you just want to take the tie? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, man. If I win, I get enough tickets so I don't have to come in tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he's all like, okay, I understand that. And I'm like, I usually take the tie. I'm just not going to. I don't want to come in.
Uh-oh.
So I think he won the first game. I won the second game. And I'm like thinking in my mind, I'm like, oh, am I going to get screwed this time? And then like, also because it had been 3 days, again, I had showered. I'm not one of those people, but I had not shaved my face, right?
Okay.
I'm not one of those people that just like didn't come to the thing and be smelly, but I had not shaved my face. And you know how when you get the start of the grow of the underneath of a beard underneath your chin, it gets like itchy?
A bit, yeah.
So I'm like scratching it, right? But the way I'm scratching it, it looks like I'm like flicking him off, and I'm already upset because like I have to come in. Like I'm just sick of Magic at this time. I'm like I've been playing for 3 days straight, and I just want to win so I could go home. And I was losing the third game, and I'm a pretty big dude. I'm like 6 foot, 280. I played football in high school. I've worked out consistently since being out of high school.
Okay.
So for being 280, like I'm muscular, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this dude was not big.
Okay.
At all.
So you could
So
snap
I'm upset. I'm like scratching my beard, but like I'm like flicking it off, and it looks like I'm flicking him off. And I'm like, and he's all like, he's getting nervous. He wins the game, and like I put my hand out to shake his hand, but he like flinches because he thought I was gonna throw a punch. And then he like takes a deep breath. He shakes my hand, and I'm like, good game, you won it. I guess I have to come in tomorrow. So I came in the next day. I played the first tournament in the morning. I won enough tickets to get my box. I went and got my box of Modern Masters, and I went home. But again, on Etiquette, always take the tie.
Like, I mean, he could have, if you just left, he would have had like maybe a completely different story where like, oh man, dude, the guy I played against, he was constantly flipping me off.
I wasn't meaning to though. I was just scratching my beard, but like I was flicking it forward, so I would start at the back of my neck and I would scratch forward, but it looked like I was flicking him off, right?
Okay, yeah. So, but yeah. I mean, then when you went out to shake his hand, he probably realized that okay, he's not.
Yeah, well, he had brought
anger.
up the point that he thought I was flicking him off, and I was like, no, dude, my beard's just itchy.
Oh,
and he's
okay.
like, oh, okay. And me and him, I saw him the next morning. He was in the tournament too, and he's like, I hope you win enough tickets. So I'm like, I do too. And we had talked and we laughed afterwards, but it was just like one of those things that like it comes back to bite you of not taking the tie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, yeah.
And that's why my stories is always take the tie. Like
do as I say, not as I do.
You know, like just take I could have gotten the extra tickets. Like I said, the next morning I came in, I won enough tickets to get my box, and then I just went home. I was
all right. Well, that's good at least. Yeah,
I was so done.
Because I wanted to bring up Etiquette because there's something that happened in one of my previous videos. It was my not Voltron, my Hopeful Homebrew not Voltron video, and it was the final match, and I was playing against this guy who had a very interesting deck, and I don't know if this guy like has it in paper and it's one of his favorite Pauper decks or something, but basically you have a card where it's an infinite combo, but it doesn't necessarily win you the game, and you have a card that the toughness grows when this card is targeted by a spell or ability whenever this creature. So he had like Daru Spiritualist and Task Force, which they get +0, +2, and +0, +3 respectively whenever they are targeted by a spell or an ability.
Okay.
And then he had Spirit Encore, which is a creature with a free activated ability, so it costs 0 mana, and the next 1 damage that would be dealt to this creature is dealt to another creature you control, or another target creature you control. And so he would just activate that ability, target the Spiritualist or the Task Force, grow the toughness I'm assuming like infinitely. And then he had a Severed Strands or Devour Flesh. They both kind of do the same thing, where you sacrifice a creature and you gain life equal to the toughness. So it's like an infinite life combo that's going on.
Nice.
So
Okay.
I thought going against it, I'd never seen something like that before. And I was like, the entire time he's setting it up, I'm like, what on earth is going on? I didn't know if there was some card where you like draw cards equal to, you know, like the toughness or whatever. And so then he gained a bunch of life, but then we still had the rest of the match to play. And he just spent the past 7 minutes gaining, you know, like 100 life or 200 life.
Yeah.
And maybe against, if I was playing like a burn deck or something like that, I probably would have scooped right there, because you know, you're probably not dealing 200 points of damage. But since I was playing my Not Voltron deck, I had a creature, or I was dealing 30 plus damage a turn, and he wasn't really blocking because he had so much life.
Yeah.
And I talked a little bit about it at the end of the video, where I didn't scoop. I ran him out of time, and he was down to, I think, like 7 or 8 minutes, and this was the first game.
Yeah.
So we still had at least 2 more, assuming he would win the second game. And he typed in the chat, and he was like, concede. I was like, no.
No,
He's
that's
like,
a legit way to win online, is making them time out. That's what I'm talking about, is you'll scoop a lot earlier because you need the more time to win 2 more matches. Because if he wins the first game, that's what I was trying to say, is like, if he wins the first game in a paper match and you guys run out of time, then he just wins, right?
Yeah.
But if he times out online, he just loses.
Yeah, so there was someone in the comments of the video who said that I was being hypocritical with the way I decided to carry that out. And I don't want to seem like I'm complaining about the person, because I want, you know, people to think critically about the decisions that they're making and not just go with whatever. But so there was someone in the comments who pointed out that because I tend to scoop when I've lost to a combo, such as, you know, like with wall combo, if they have infinite mana and then they get the Bloodrite Invoker, or, you know, like the Vivian's Grizzly. Yeah, so if they get those, then I'll just scoop, because I'll save them, you know, like the clicking. However, with this person, because I had less cards in my library, and they technically could have had infinite life, that I was being a hypocritical by forcing them to play it out and forcing them to lose when I was, you know, going to lose eventually, maybe.
Yes.
So I don't know, what are your thoughts when you hear something like that?
Okay. 1, if they have infinite mana and they are going to kill you with like the walls combo, right? You have every right to make them play it out, because like I said, having them time out is a way to win the game. Also, strategies like that, it makes them less enticed to play that type of deck. Which, especially against like blue-white familiars, because I've had issues. I think that deck is annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
I usually force them to play it out. Now, when other people make me force me to play it out, because I have played walls combos and blue-white familiars, because eventually you have to play everything when you play 500 videos.
Yeah.
When they make me click it out, I understand and I accept that, because it's part of playing the deck. If they concede, I think that person is a great person. And, you know, like, I can understand. And there's been times where I've conceded where, like, it's game 3 and they have like 5 minutes, and I know that they'll click through in 5 minutes because I've seen them do it before. So there's been times where I've conceded. But usually I want to see what their click speed and everything is.
Yeah, and So,
Secondly,
oh yeah,
so
go for it.
to the point of your situation, he did not have the kill.
Mm-hmm.
As you have seen at that point, he did not have the kill. Two, you don't know what's in his deck because this is a deck you've never seen before,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maybe he has a way to kill you. Like maybe he had a way like Epicure Blood or the more recent card Marauding Blight Priest, which is way better.
Yeah.
If he had that card, you need to know about the card if you have a sideboard for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you need to see that card before conceding anyways. So I don't agree with the person who critiqued you, but it doesn't make for very entertaining Magic, in all honesty, to watch it out. I usually cut that part. So
Yeah, and I mean, if I played it out, I would have probably cut it out. And for the record, the person who commented said themselves that they don't think I was in the wrong for making them play it out. They make for the most part they themselves make people play out combo decks. He just thought that I was being hypocritical by saying, "Yeah, I concede to combo decks when they win, but then I didn't concede to that combo deck when
but
they
he
have the
didn't
win."
have a winning combo. That's the difference. That's the distinction you should make. Is he has shown me no way that he's gonna win.
Yeah, my so when I responded, because I did respond, I still hold my responses pretty much what I think about it now, is that great, you've gained infinite life, now kill me. It's like, now actually win the game. And if by winning you make yourself lose the game.
Yeah, maybe you want to see if he has an Epicure Blood, because I'm guessing this is from a while ago, or no?
It was a while ago. However, it was it was like all the life gain happened on one trigger. It wasn't over like multiple. So it wasn't like Weather the Storm or something where you just gain a bunch of life. It was all from one trigger. So Epicure of Blood and the Blood Priest probably wouldn't do that well.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you want to see if he has something that he can do with all this life. Also, it's a new deck. You want to see all the cards in there, so that's a good way to see all the cards in it, is to play it out. And that dude just expecting you to concede because he gained 1,000,000 life is like, no.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because it's like he was up to 300 life at one point, but I was dealing over 30 damage a turn, so I still would have won.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it was an interesting, almost like thought experiment, if you will, because in paper I probably would have conceded, because then he could literally just sit there and say, okay, I gain. Yeah, I will activate this and then sacrifice this, and I'll gain 10 million life.
The 2 games, you know?
Well, what was that?
In paper, you need the time to win the other 2 games. That's what I'm talking about. Like, people concede earlier in paper because they need the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, because every second that I waste a second of your time rather than the chess clock that is on,
Online. Yeah.
It's a chess clock, so I'm wasting my own time, not your time. But if I decide to waste time in paper, I'm wasting your time as well. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he only has to win the one.
Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was kind of interesting because in paper, I probably would have conceded or something, or I might have played it out for a little bit just to kind of see if there was anything else like up with the deck. But I had less cards in my library. He could have, in paper, he could just sit there and be like, okay, I'm gonna play this and then do this, and I'm going to be up at 100 million life instead of having to click through each individual trigger, and there's no way I'm dealing 100 million damage.
Correct, but then at the time you want to see all his cards, so it depends on how much time is left and what's in your deck. And if your deck's playing control, if your deck's playing more of a solitary where you're not really interacting with them anyways, you probably concede earlier anyways.
Yeah, so I just thought it was kind of interesting, but I do play in that regard. I do play a little differently between online and paper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
mean, like
in
I said,
online, timer is a win
there's still
condition.
things online or on paper. Like I said, there's a decent amount of difference that it is like an entirely new experience, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
that's playing all online versus all playing all paper. And I mean, let's be honest, is the main reason why I think most of us get into Magic is it's a good way to bond with friends, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
make new friends. Like I've made now, granted, I am terrible with keeping in contact with people, and
Yeah, same here.
this is my problem. But like, I've made, you know, plenty of friends at magic shops, and like, I still talk to Robert, like, I don't know, probably like once a month or once every other month, and we met, 2 years ago, like at a GP. Like you just meet people, you get to learn things. He actually like one of my biggest growth days on my YouTube channel was after they gave me a shout out at one of the GPs at on their next podcast because he had played a Jund list that he had built, and then I made some changes, put it on my channel, and then tagged him on Twitter. And he checked it. He's like, "Yeah, I like your changes. It's way better this way,"
Yeah.
you know. And then
Yeah.
he said that on his podcast and he gave me a shout out, and I had like a lot of people join me that time.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That always feels good.
Yeah. So a lot of respect to him. Like I said, Entropy 263, I think is his magic name. Like he's also, like I said, very good player.
Mm-hmm.
He he uh he knows a lot about Pauper.
Yeah.
So I got to talk to him a little bit. Got to feel his feelings, but he only plays Tron because he's all like Tron's just light years ahead of every other deck. And the way he builds his Tron deck is to make it so he can outplay other players, even if he has a bad matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, Tron just has the tools to do so.
Yeah. So he's all like, I'm gonna just play Tron, and if I'm just not. I think I can win every match. If I go undefeated, that's my expectation.
That's a
legit.
pretty
That's
high
how
expectation.
He's like, I expect to win every match.
I think I hope to win every match.
I'm all like, I go on the mindset. I build my deck to beat the best deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, it was 2-3 years ago. I built the Delver deck to beat other Delver decks, and like I said, I only lost to one the entire weekend, and I played like 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this time, I built my deck to beat the Just Guy Ephemery deck, and I lost to one Ephemery style deck.
Yeah.
But the problem with that first Delver deck, like the one that was meant to beat other Delver, it could not beat elves. My two losses, I had one tie and one loss against elves, had 0 wins that entire weekend. My only other loss was that deck that I had never seen before, which was the Song of the Dams deck.
Mm-hmm.
But literally, like, I could not, like, basically I was so happy when I played, like, the second time that I played the elves player, it was a different elves player, and I was just all like, hey, we're both 2-0. There's only 3 matches. Both of us can get a decent amount of ticks. Let's just take the tie. He's like, yeah, we'll take the tie. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yes. You dodged that one.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, thank God. He's like, yeah, let's go re-sign up for another thing. I'm like, this sounds so great. You're such a wonderful person.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. But like, basically, my goal was like, if I could just avoid the bad matchups, I'm gonna win. Well, I'm just trying to try to luck out and beat the most popular deck.
I mean, sometimes you just kind of have to hope that you get lucky and dodge out on your bad matchups.
Yeah, that's why like the people who consistently like do really well on like modern GPs, those people are like real Magic players. Because there's like 30 on most like modern like formats, unless you talk about when Kirkland's KCI was like
yeah, the deck.
When that was the deck, that deck had like an 80% win chance against everything. That's why the one dude won like 2 GPs in a row.
Oh wow.
forgot what his name is. He's a pro player, but like he
Oh,
won
I'm not
literally
sure.
he went back to back with GPs, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I was like, so yeah, unless there's a deck like that, or like when Eldrazi like Tron Summer happened,
Mm-hmm.
then that was just the best deck. But like most of the time in Modern, which used to be the format that I played the most before I got into Pauper,
Mm-hmm.
there's like 20 decks that you could 20 to 30 decks that you could possibly see at a GP, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna play rock. You might rock paper scissors good against 20 of the 30 decks, but that still means that like a third of the field is just a terrible matchup for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, because you have 3,000 players, you instead, and let's say 1,000 of them are bad matchups, and you face 5 of those people in the first 10 matches, you're already out of the GP. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, there's quite a like it's a pretty good mix of, well, maybe not a good mix, but it's a mix of luck and skill, I guess.
Yeah. Well, like you can definitely increase your percentages. That's what I was talking about. If you play Pauper and Paper, most people have not played a lot of Pauper, so you can like
Mm-hmm.
pretty much win 70% of your matches, even if they're bad matches. You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's partly what I was saying. Like, it's partly like there is skill to it, but there's a lot of luck in those huge tournaments with 4 or 5 thousands of players. Like
Yeah.
it just is.
Yeah. So there is one final thing I want to talk about, and maybe we can help those people who don't play Pauper but show up to these events, and that's like starting Pauper at one of your LGSs. Because I admit I've tried, obviously before the pandemic, and then I'll probably continue to bug them after the pandemic. Because yeah, as fun as online is, I think I do prefer paper. I mean,
Because
I much prefer
it's
paper.
the commodity of it.
I mean, you get to actually see the person. You're actually like playing with physical game pieces and not just clicking. So, in my opinion, paper is more fun than online. But
I could agree with that.
yeah. So
Online's more convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Paper is probably more fun.
Yeah. So, in order to get like Pauper started at an LGS, because I've tried before, kind of unsuccessfully. Although I'm thinking now I've got a few more strategies to employ. Whereas now that I have like a Pauper battle box filled with actual Pauper decks, I might try like bringing that whenever I go to a local game store, seeing if anyone just wants to pick up a game of Pauper, and then they can actually see that it's not just common jank, it's like real decks.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest, one of the biggest things is when people first hear that, oh, Pauper, commons only, what? And then they don't realize that these decks
really
are actually powerful. Yeah, it's, I don't think people realize just how well these decks function.
Well, like the Pauper Stompy deck could like run over a lot of modern decks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so fast.
Yeah.
And then I think there was a while ago, someone brought Pauper Elves to a Legacy event and ended up winning the Legacy event with Pauper Elves.
Yeah, well, he had put in he put in the land, which creates
Gaia's
all the
Cradle, yeah.
And then he put in one of the Legacy win cons, but the rest of it was pretty much just Pauper.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he ended up winning it because there's not much of a difference between like the play style of Legacy elves and Pauper elves because they're more combo-y than like modern elves is more aggression and less combo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like distant melody or whatever.
So at least the ways that I would think about, I've never done this. I've never attempted to do this, but this is theoretical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is I think any store would, if you have enough people interested, any store will set up a tournament for it because it's just free money for them, right?
Yeah.
So they don't really care about that. The best ideas are, the easiest way is if you have a bunch of friends already interested in Pauper, then you have most of the play group already, right?
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that, then like you said, is building a bunch of Pauper decks. I would say probably like 6 to 10, and making them variant enough that people are interested, right?
Yeah.
And playing with people outside of a tournament first, getting a few more people interested, then actually like saying, hey, could we do like one event on this Sunday and see how it goes, and then invite a bunch of those people that you've been playing on like Friday Night Magic and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
There was when we used to play Modern, when I used to play Modern and Paper. The only reason why one of the Modern events on a Thursday, because it's hard to get everyone together on a Thursday, would go off, is because one of the guys there had 20 Modern decks. He was just loaded.
Oh wow!
And he just built a bunch of Modern decks, and he brought a bunch of his friends, and his friends would all borrow his decks.
Yeah, that's a pretty good plan.
Man, so he was. If that dude didn't show up, then there was no tournament that day. Does that make sense? Like,
now it does, yeah.
Yeah, like if he did not show up, there wasn't enough decks to play. There weren't enough people to play. But realistically, like most LGSs, they'll even go off like if it's like a smaller one, they'll go off with like 6 people, and then you just build it over time. But you gotta build decks that are fun to play, you know?
Yeah. So I mean decks. I mean mono green Stompy is pretty simple just to start off with. Like you could probably just give someone that, and just tell them, hey, it's an aggro deck. Put things down, make things big, swing in.
Mono white heroic.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Elves, if you can build that. Burn, which is more expensive, but that's probably worth it to try out. Probably 2 different variants of Delver, like built like one mono blue and then one either blue black or blue red. Then like Boggles is pretty cheap to put together. I don't think there's really any expensive cards in that other than Utopia Sprawl.
Yeah,
Utopia Sprawl might be expensive now, actually.
I'm not sure. But I mean, everyone loves Slivers.
Yeah, Slivers. Actually, Slivers would be a great way to get people in, because not only is it not a bad deck, but a lot of people would enjoy it.
Yeah, when I show people, or when I teach people how to play Magic, I'll generally start with Pauper, and then I'll generally just hand them like the Slivers deck, and just be like, hey, here, play that. You just want to play creatures. They buff each other, and it's super simple, and it's super fun.
Yeah, and then if you could build like there's a cheap way of building mono black control. So you could build like a cheap version of mono black control, so you don't have to spend that much. Because I think some people would like that style. And then, yeah, I mean, you could build Tron, but if you did build Tron, I would recommend Big Tron, because it's not fun.
You mean like Green Tron?
Yeah, like with Ulamog Crusher and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Tron's supposed to be played, not this whole Flicker.
Yeah, I have to admit that's the Tron that's in the battle box right now, not Flicker Tron.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then so if you can definitely get enough people interested, and then obviously just talk to the game store employees.
Yeah, but like basically like game store employees, they're already going to be there, and there's usually one of them that's already going to be a judge, so you just got to do it on a day that person's going to be, right? And then let's say you get 8 people to do it, which is like a small tournament, but it's still fun, and it's $5 per person. That's $40. They're going to keep, let's say they keep 20%, and then the rest goes towards prizes.
Yeah.
And they usually give it out in game, in store credit, so they're going to keep $8 right off the bat just for like letting you guys play there. And then they're giving you like what, $36 in store credit to the first and second, right?
Yeah.
So like first place gets 24, second place gets 12. But then if they're giving you it in store credit, they bought their product at 70%. So then they're keeping another, let's say they end up keeping actual value of another $9 or so. So they're getting what, $17 just for you guys to hang out there. And while you guys are hanging out there, you might buy more cards, and it builds the community. People are asking what's going on. They have the possibility of selling more cards. So like, I think it's overall net positive for something that they had to put no effort into.
Yeah. So I think once the pandemic calms down, then I'll probably try
It'll
to
be like
put a
a
little
year.
more effort in to like.
Paper Magic might be dead by then.
Yeah. Well, I can dream. Okay.
That's what. That's. I mean, we talked about the professor before. That's all he talks about on his podcast. It seems like lately is how Paper Magic is just getting the shaft.
I mean, I don't think they can kill paper. I mean, that's not like, I don't want to get too far off on this topic, but like, I don't think they can kill paper magic, because honestly, if magic was purely digital, it would have died like so long ago, because
Hasn't
Hearthstone.
Hearthstone like lost a lot of like players already?
Uh, I I don't think Arena. Obviously I don't know the player statistics, so I shouldn't comment on that.
Hearthstone. Hearthstone is strictly online, so I'm just wondering.
Yeah, because I mean, Hearthstone, Legends of Runeterra is another one that's coming up, and I just think that the digital card game market is just like oversaturated at this point, and I don't think Magic would be able to survive if it was purely digital.
I don't know. Hearthstone has over 100 million players.
So I just don't know if like, I don't know. I think that, Magic being the biggest paper card, I don't know if it's the biggest. I know it's the longest running. I want to say it's the biggest, but yeah, I don't know for certain. But
No, Hearthstone's the biggest online.
Paper. So I like
Paper
compared to like
without a doubt.
Yu-Gi-Oh and like Pokemon and stuff.
Yeah, but Hearthstone, like I said, it's supposed to have like 200,000 people online just as of right now. Like,
Yeah, I tried. I couldn't get into it.
I couldn't either.
It's too
Does
expensive.
it have a decline? Like, that's the thing. Oh,
That doesn't sound. It sounds like you just found something.
yeah. So browsing my phone, found this. Apparently, a player base has been declining in great numbers. I have evidence to prove this. At least on my mobile platform, Samsung devices, digital called Galaxy Launcher tracks how many active players are in a particular game within a given period. I don't know how accurate this is, or a glimpse of the active base on Samsung US platforms. 32 weeks ago, 201,000. 24 weeks ago, 216,000. 16 weeks ago, 174,000. 8 weeks ago, 120,000. This week, 82,000.
Yikes.
Yeah. But we don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, 32 weeks ago could have been just the release of a new set and a huge.
But this was back in May.
So yeah, so back then they could have just released a new set, and
yeah, in their comments they said that just check the Twitch stats, and this New Year is lowest viewership compared to previous New Years.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Legends of Runeterra is an online card game that's really starting to become popular.
Yeah.
So
well, it's like one of those things though. Do you want, like, there's no doubt about it, is Hearthstone's had more players at one time than Magic has had, right?
Yeah, you're talking about like online?
Just in general.
Oh, in general.
They went at their peak, right?
Maybe.
So I'm talking especially for like tournaments, for watching on Twitch, all that kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
They definitely had, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it was free to play for the most part, as well as like it had a really big spike. But let's be honest, Magic has lasted 27 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want longevity or do you want the spike? And it seems like they're going for the spike right now.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
I think, at least I think. But
it is. People do what they do.
On the bright side, though, if they keep printing a bunch of broken cards, it might push some more people over to Pauper,
or just push them into Commander forever.
Yeah, or
Pauper.
Commander.
Commander's the true heart and soul of the longevity for Magic.
I think at least Paper, yeah.
Yeah, for Paper Magic, that's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
I've played it a little bit with friends. We just play pre-made decks because we don't want to start an arms race, because arms races ruin Paper Magic.
Yeah, when I got back into Magic, at around Kaladesh. When I started doing Commander again, and it wasn't up until like probably maybe a year and a half ago where my my friend group, my play group, it was basically like an arms race to try to create something powerful. But that was, I want to say it was mainly because we were still building up our deck building skills. And so as we just naturally got better at deck building, our decks became a lot stronger. But now we're at a point where it's like we're comfortable with where we're at, and we're purposely building like not as powerful as we possibly could decks. And I really like
you
that
have
spot.
to have a general agreement among your play group of like what power level you're gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest way for us was just we're gonna buy a bunch of pre-made decks and we just put it into a community pool. Like I've committed like 4 or 5 decks to that pool, but I just gave them to my friend to put in the pool, and I don't really care to keep it. But it was only like $40 per deck, so like I don't really care about the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just roll dice, and then that's the deck you play that day.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, so it's fun. I never win though because my friends do not let me win the politics game, and that's half of what Commander is.
Oh no.
They just it's when I'm winning, I'm like extremely cocky and I'm talking a lot of smack.
Oh no.
And then when I'm losing, I'm like a bad loser. It's not that I'm like yelling at anyone. I just get real sad and they laugh at my sadness. They just want me to lose.
Oh no.
So they're just all like, let's just kill Josh first.
Like, oh, that's what you get for last game.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's like they're just all like the thing is like if you play with Josh, don't listen to him. Whatever he's saying is only going to benefit him, and it sounds like it's going to benefit you, but it's not. You're going to lose.
You don't know what's in his hand. It's only going to benefit him.
So it would be like my friend Jesse. It's like me, my friend Jesse, and Mike are usually the 3 that play, right? Mm-hmm. And then Jesse will be usually the one, like everyone's kind of like holding back, waiting to like do stuff because we don't want to like antagonize other people, right?
Yeah.
So, and then Jesse usually will be the first one to pick someone, and then he's all like, should I attack Josh or should I attack Mike? Should I attack Josh or should I attack Mike? And he's like, no, we're going to attack Josh. So I'm like, you know what? F you, man. What are you doing, Jesse? Like,
it's on now.
Like, it's on, Jesse. And then Mike's just sitting over there, like, giggling because he's like, I'm going to win again.
I mean, he's the one that's staying out of all this.
Yeah, and then at the end, it'll be like either I beat Jesse or Jesse beats me. And then at the end, Mike's all like, oh, all your stuff's depleted, half your monsters are gone, and I've built up an army. All right, I'm just going to swing for the win.
Cool. Yay.
Yay.
I win.
Yeah, and then like, no, I'm all like, this is stupid. I don't like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's, the saddest Commander.
Sorry. No. I think out of the games we played, Mike's won 70% of the games.
Oh wow. Yeah, I was just gonna say the saddest Commander victory I think I've ever had. I was playing my Pashalik Mons Goblin combo deck, and nothing was going right. Everything was going wrong. I'm wanting to play a bunch of 1/1 goblins, and they would just like board wipe after board wipe after board wipe. I got like some mana rocks out, and that's like the only thing I had going for me. And so I had a good amount of mana, but I'm in mono red, so I'm not really drawing cards, and just everything I play that's not mana is basically just getting blown up. And it wasn't because people were targeting me, it's because my 2 friends were really just going at it at each other and just popping off themselves, and they were just board wiping to get rid of the other person's board, and I was just kind of left as the collateral damage. And it was reaching towards the end. I was at like 28 life, and my friends were each at like under 10 life because they had just been focusing on each other, and I've had nothing going for me. And I top deck an Earthquake, and nice. So I'm just like, oh cool, Earthquake for 6, and they're like, wait, do you win?
Yep.
And I was like, do I win? And I won, and I was like, yay, hard earned, well deserved victory.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why Commander's so fun though, is because even though you don't have the best deck or the best skills, you can win by like just chilling.
Yeah, it was really funny, and it was just like, oh man, we'll still bring it up. It's just like the worst commander victory because you just sit there doing nothing all game, and they're just like earthquake win.
Yeah, that's the way to go. No,
Yeah. All right. So, any final thoughts? I know we got a little off track at the end there, but online versus paper Pauper.
I think we've been doing this for like 2 hours, so I think they have a lot of content.
Yeah, probably a little more than went off on a few tangents, but that's okay. That's okay.
No, as long as people enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. It was a lot of fun. Please subscribe to SlugMTG. Subscribe to SinCityMtG. Please comment below if you guys have any specific questions, or if you just want to talk smack about how you shouldn't always take the time. Maybe you have a different opinion, or maybe a story of your own.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, just like sitting, chatting, and stuff.
It was
very
great.
much enjoyed it. So
I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I know we had a good time just chatting. So I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to, well, I guess listen this time around. Listen to the video. And if you have any questions, maybe future topic ideas, or things that you just want to discuss down in the comments below, make sure to leave a comment. And we'll see you guys next time.